Namaskaram, everyone. I see, I see people have joined in. Sharad, namaskar. Namaskaram, Sharad. In the last live stream, people were missing Sharad, so I invited him to this event, and I'll be inviting him in all events going forward. Good to see you here, Sharad. Namaskaram, Nimiji. Namaskaram, Pradeep ji, Bhavik ji, Gopakumar ji. Namaskaram, Harshad ji. Namaskaram, Nicole. Namaskaram. Uh, Tulika ji, namaste. Namaskaram, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Sanskrit Showcase. In this, as you might have seen in the title and the description itself, we have a uniquely interesting guest today. We have Yashodeep ji, who runs a channel called as 21 Notes. We'll be sharing. So the format of this showcase is going to be slightly different from what we have been doing so far. Also, uh, as usual, I'll be introducing the guest, and after he comes back, we'll know a little bit about him. We'll talk to him a little, and then go to his channel and see some of his videos, and then we'll converse about the topics which have been presented in the videos, and then take questions from some of you guys. Hmm. Sharad says, didn't know you people were missing me. Yes, yes, people were missing. Vatsala ji, namaste. Yeah, so that is going to be the format of today's showcase. Uh, so let me quickly give you an introduction to Yashodeep ji. So first time I saw his channel on YouTube, I was blown away by the amount of research and the amount of effort which has been put into it. Um, just in case, if any of you guys want to check out his channel, there is a green button below the video, below my uh, frame. Visit 21 Notes on YouTube. You can check out his channel there. So, a brief about Yashodeep ji. I mean, even before I tell him, after I tell him, I'll invite him on screen so that he can talk a little bit about himself and his work. But he is an IIM graduate who is working full time on creating uh, awareness and presenting Valmiki Ramayana for now. And probably I think he also has plans on covering all the Itihasas and then move on to Puranas. But Valmiki Ramayana itself is a humongous work. So he is presenting concepts of Valmiki Ramayana in his talks are usually named Valmiki Ramayana for the 21st century. They are uniquely well crafted. All the videos are real. There are the beat the music, the beat the background music, beat the storyline, beat how it is presented. The graphics and the animations. Everything is so very well done. Um, so I'll call him. I'll invite him on screen so that we can have a live conversation with him. Namaskaram Chandrika ji. Namaskaram Anil ji. Nice to see all of you guys. I'm inviting Yashodeep ji on the screen. Yash ji, you can now accept the invite. There is someone speaking in the background. Yes, there is. Namaskaram, Yash ji. There is a school adjacent to my place, so there is prayer going on, early morning prayer. The headmaster is giving a speech. I hope it's not too disturbing.
That's fine.
You can hear my voice only, right?
Yes.
I'll probably move it closer to my. Namaste. Welcome to the Sanskrit Showcase. It's a privilege that you're here to talk about your work. And
thank you very much for inviting me, Uday.
My pleasure. So I've seen your videos, so I know about them. And people who are, who are not yet acquainted with your work can check your channel with the button below. But tell me about yourself. Tell me how you got started with the journey, and a little bit of a background on why you chose this particular path. How you got here.
Okay, sure. I was running my own company in a very different field, global oil and gas industry. And I was running the business. And I happened to read a book on the Valmiki Ramayana. And before I read that, I thought that I know the Ramayana. We have all heard the stories of Ramayana, so we are familiar with it. What will one more book tell me something new about it. But and I read it because my mother had edited it. It was in Marathi, and she gave me the book. She had edited it, so I read it. But I was blown away by what I heard about the Valmiki Ramayana. So these were edited lectures on the Valmiki Ramayana. Then I thought I must read the Ramayana myself. So I started reading Valmiki's Ramayana in Sanskrit, making slow progress, picking up pace as I went along, getting more familiar with the language. And as I read it, I thought I had to share it with others. So that's how this 21 Notes video series was born. 21 notes, consider these like my study notes. If you go on a trek, then, I want to tell you, hey, look at this. Look at that side. That's really interesting. And look at this tree, or look at this view here. Finally, you have to look, and it's all there. You can. There's nothing like reading for everyone. The reading Valmiki Ramayana in the original. But if you don't have time, and if you're not familiar with Sanskrit, then here are my notes, short format videos, which are suitable for today's world.
Yes, and I mean, they're so very well done. The graphics, we talked about this yesterday as well. So what is the process? When did you get started with creating these videos, and how do you go about researching? Because I also saw that you stay as authentic to the content. You give Sanskrit references. We'll be watching the video soon. But can you talk about the process of creating and crafting a video?
In fact, Uday, as a process, perhaps do you want to show the introductory video so that people are familiar with what it is, and then when we talk about it, they'll
perfect. Let's do that. 1 second. Yeah.
Ramayana, the story of Ram, the story that we know so well and yet know so little.
Uday, can you mute your mic?
Okay.
Dasara to mark Ram's victory over Ravan, and Diwali on the day of his return to Ayodhya. And we may remember some of the stories from the Ramayana TV serial, YouTube videos, and comics. But who was Ram? Was he a person? Or God? Or both? Or was he neither, and is all of Ramayana just fiction? Was Hanuman a monkey? Was Ravan really all that bad? And how did Ravan with his 10 heads enter a room? Did he make a sideways entry? And why, oh why, did Ram ask Sita to leave? Was a bridge really built to cross the sea to get to Lanka? And what about the Pushpak Viman? Answers to all these questions and much more is to be found in the Valmiki Ramayana, the story that Valmiki wrote soon after Ram's return from Lanka, and which was later retold by Kalidas, Tulsidas, Kamba, and many others over the millennia. The story that has inspired millions over the ages in our land. I urge you to read the Valmiki Ramayana with me. In fact, I implore you. But why do that, you will ask? Yes, it's not easy. This is a book that has 500 chapters and 24,000 verses. And it is in Sanskrit. Besides, some of you may say, I'm not that religious in the conventional sense. But the Valmiki Ramayana is not a religious book in the conventional sense. There are no religious do's and don'ts in the book. As Valmiki explicitly states, it is the life story of a brave, just man who became a role model in his own lifetime. It is a historical book. Valmiki himself says that this is Ramasya Charitam, Ram's biography, Ramasya Vrittam, Ram's story. And to make things crystal clear, he also says that what he is writing is itihas. Iti, ha, asa. That is how it happened. It is not surprising that some remain skeptical about this, given that this story has often been described just like the Mahabharata as mythology. Now, don't take my word when I say that the Valmiki Ramayana is a historical text. But likewise, don't take anyone else's word for the opposite as well. Make up your own mind, but please only after reading the book, or in this case, listening. Disclaimer: many of us have a deep emotional connection with Ram, Sita, and Hanuman. We may have our preferred version of the Ramayana. This reading is based on the Valmiki Ramayana published by the Gorakhpur Gita Press. So let us dust off this Adikavya, the oldest epic, and read it in its original form. 24,000 verses is a lot to cover. Thankfully, Valmiki gives us an executive summary at the beginning, which we will see in the next episode. Remember also Valmiki's instruction, Punyaya mitrebhyah preshayet janah. This means that you should forward this video to all your friends and groups on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and all social media. Just kidding. Of course, Valmiki did not say that last line, but do forward nevertheless. Iti ha asa. That is how it happened.
So Uday, to answer the question that you had asked earlier, the process of making these videos, I think with that introduction, some of the viewers will also get an idea for this. So this is based on the reading of the Valmiki Ramayana. And like I said, for example, itihas. What is the meaning of the word itihas? Itihasa. That is how it happened.
Right. So is the audio better now? Sorry, just so that you have a conversation going, so that you don't feel like you're speaking into a void. Is the background noise still there, or is it better? I try to do something.
It's better. It's better, and that's all. I think just when you're playing the videos, if you put it on mute, that's good. But even otherwise, we can have the conversation. Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Sorry. Please go ahead.
So. As I read the Valmiki Ramayana, yes, I'm not so good at Sanskrit that I can understand everything myself. I get about 3/4 of it. Then I look at some translations in Hindi, English, or Marathi, and also the tikas, the Sanskrit tikas.
Right.
Those are the traditional, ways of understanding. And those are immensely helpful when I want to understand something in great depth. For example, we'll come to that later. A lot of people have this question that when Lakshman decided to go with Ram, did he seek Urmila's? Did he talk to Urmila? Or did he just leave? Now, what is Valmiki's words on this, etc.? So when I go deep, I look at the tikas.
Okay.
And there are, as we see in subsequent videos also, I have given actual Sanskrit shloks or phrases to make important points. But even other than that, when I'm not giving those shloks, everything is directly coming from Valmiki Ramayana. When I am adding any comment to that, it is specifically called out where I say, well, think about it. Is this, how is it in today's world, etc. So I call out that the other parts are directly taken from the Valmiki Ramayana. So the viewers can be, assured that this is, there is less of any intermediary like me coming in between them and Valmiki.
But there are so many interpretations, there are so many questions, as you rightly said, right? With people try to put their own lens on it and try to completely avoiding what Valmiki said in the original text, start debating,
True.
Is what Lakshman did to Shurpanakha right? What?
Yes. Yes. So that's a very good point. And even when I speak to students in colleges or schools, and I've done quite a few talks. First of all, I urge them. I said that, look, we have a lot of questions about the Ramayana, but let us find out before we reach any conclusion.
Yes.
Let us find out what is actually said in the historical text. So there are many versions of the Ramayana, but everybody agrees that only the Valmiki Ramayana is Itihas. The others have other purposes, whether it is devotional or literature or anything else. The Itihas is Valmiki Ramayana. So if the question is, did this happen or how did this happen, then the reference text should be the Valmiki Ramayana.
Exactly.
So before reaching any conclusion, you should read the text. You at least you owe ourselves that much.
Correct.
For example, Ramayana has affected. Ramayana has inspired, affected, and been in every part of our lives. For example, I tell some of the students that if you go to, let's say, Aurangabad and you go to the Ellora temple, rock cut temples, the main temple there took a few hundred years to build, right? Because they were chipping away at rock to make the temple. They didn't put bricks together, they chipped away at rock. So it took a few hundred years to make it. Now there are two sides to the temple, right? Which stories, and there are two stories I'm telling you that have been engraved on those sides. Which stories will they be? Everybody will say Ramayana and Mahabharata. Okay. Now, if our ancestors were so inspired by the Ramayana that for few hundred years they were chipping away at rock to put this story in, surely there is something that we ought to at least find out before reaching a conclusion. So that is my request to the students when I speak. Let us find out and then arrive at conclusions.
Wonderful. That's amazing. So is the audio better now? There's no from my end. It's okay. Yes. Wonderful. Coming to you have covered, is it fact or fiction? Like you urge people to make that conclusion for themselves. As you clearly said, do not believe my word for it. Do not just read the text or listen to this rendition. One thing that I noticed was the background music. I mean, as you said before in our conversation, many people find many parts of the video appealing to them. For me, the most important, enjoyable experience was the background music, which felt it set the pace, which kind of invigorates the audience to take that step forward. So how do you make those choices? How do you go about crafting those?
By the way, the noise, background noise just increased. Anyway, so the format of these videos with the background music, with the shadow animation, and the length of the videos, etc., all of it has come together somewhat by chance. But we have come to it in a way that it works. Background music itself, for example, this was the first episode, so it was a very fast, there's a tempo building up. But as we go to Ayodhya Kand, it takes a much more measured and emotional angle. So, and right now, for example, the music is it's more of the same phrases repeated, whereas in Ayodhya Kand, almost every sentence, we've created the music, the background music, almost like a song. So as the mood changes, and you will see that in season 2 and 3 when we play some of those videos. Finally, I don't think the viewers are affected by the entire product. Somebody may say, I like the music. Somebody may say that I like the narration or the animation. Finally, if we've managed to connect them with Valmiki's words, then they will do their own magic, that we are assured. And that is why even the animation is only shadow animation. The intent is not to give such a detailed description, that we want to put our idea of what the expression was or what the details were. Shadows are enough. The words will create the own Valmiki's words will create the images in your mind.
Create a mental picture for the reader.
Yes.
Itself.
The shadow animation
assist the process.
Provides the framework for you to do that.
Wonderful. So let's move on to the next part of the video, the 7th episode.
And,
that you want.
Before we do that, so we were talking about the question of whether it is true or not, right? Now, and also what is the relevance of this? Why should we study the Valmiki Ramayana today? Now, we Valmiki wrote the Ramayana because he wanted to set the highest example of good behavior, right? There was Rakshasi Pravrutti in society at that time, which is bad behavior. There is bad behavior today also in our society. So as long as there is bad behavior, an ideal of good behavior is relevant. And therefore the Valmiki Ramayana is relevant. But the question then comes naturally, that is Ram's behavior the ideal behavior? Is it the perfect behavior? And it's important to ask that question, because unless we understand it, how will we emulate? And therefore, before we look at what Ram did and why we did, we have to understand the context of that time. And that is why I wanted to play the video on Vanaras and some of these as context. So we will play two videos for context today. One is on Vanaras, because there are a lot of misconceptions about who the Vanaras were. The other, there are a lot of misconceptions about, how can these fantastic things happen in the Ramayana, etc. So let us first understand the context so that we can understand Ram's behavior. Okay, so therefore, let's watch what Valmiki has to say about the Vanaras.
Yeah, let's do that. So I don't think there's much left to say from my side. The points that you have raised are extremely apt, that we need to understand the time in which the story happened, how Valmiki presented it, first of all, in itself, the context in which the story happened, the situations that led there, and most of all, to understand the words in the right context. If something has been mentioned, something has been described, what is the actual description? People have their own interpretations, and as you said it, there are multiple variations where people have taken liberty to interpret or present these characters in the context in their own way. But coming back again to Valmiki Ramayana and how the Sanskrit words, you've been modest again in saying I don't know much of Sanskrit. He has actually urged me to speak to him in Sanskrit whenever we speak. We'll probably have a conversation, as you said, in the future in Sanskrit among ourselves. Astu, idanim tu chalanchitram pashyamah. The second video we'll watch now, and I'll share the screen.
This is Valmiki Ramayana, Season 1, Episode 7, Vanaras. Who were the Vanaras? Were they monkeys? Or were they primitive tribes? Or were they a different race altogether? The answer is most emphatically none of the above. Valmiki has spelled out in no uncertain terms that the Vanaras were Vanacharinaha, people who roamed in the forests. And they were not a different race. Their genetic roots were the same as that of the city dwellers. Also, not only were they physically very strong, but they were extremely intelligent too. The Vanaras wore a tail and a headdress like a monkey, just as some tribal communities wear horns on their head. But there is no doubt that they were humans. Even in our times, fat cats in white shirts and black suits may look like penguins, but they are not penguins, nor are they cats. They are CEOs, investment bankers, and management consultants. And not all the forest-dwelling folks wore tails. Some resembled bears. Essentially, Vanam Rati iti Vanarah. The one who lives off the forest is a Vanar. Over time, the meaning became more limited, and the word Vanar started being used to denote monkeys only. Further, Valmiki says, Rukshishu cha tatha jata Vanarah kinnarishu cha. Some of the Vanaras were born to forest dwellers who dressed up like bears, and to Gandharvas. If Ruksha referred to bears and not to people who wore a bearskin, and Vanaras referred to monkeys and not to people who donned a face mask and a tail, then the above sentence by Valmiki would mean that monkeys were born to bears, which is obviously not what he meant. These forest communities were not a different race compared to the city dwellers, For Valmiki has said, distinguished rishis, siddhas, vidyadharas, uragas, charanas begot heroic sons who became forest dwellers. Note, some of the Vanaras were born to rishis, just like some of the Rakshasas, including Ravan, as well as some of the citizens of Ayodhya and other cities. The notion that forest communities were primitive people that were racially different from city-based people is absolutely false. Vanaras were physically very powerful, and they were also very intelligent. The intelligence part unfortunately got glossed over in some of the later retellings. But Valmiki is clear. The Vanaras were Nayadnyan Buddhi Sampannan Vishnutulya Parakraman, knowers of statecraft, endowed with intellect, and equal to Vishnu in prowess. Further, they were spread across forests and mountains throughout the world. Once again, the notion that the Vanaras were only in South India is completely incorrect. Iyam Prithvi Saparvatavanarnava Kirnataihi. This earth, with its mountains, forests, and seas, was pervaded by them. And Bhuh Samavrita Babhuva. The earth became covered by them. Extremely unfortunately, Vanaras are almost always characterized as monkeys in popular culture. Look at most contemporary comics, cartoons, or pictures on Ramayana. But look further back in history, and there is no confusion. For example, in the sculptures depicting Ramayana scenes at Ellora and Angkor Wat, Hanuman and the Vanaras are shown in a form, size, and proportion very similar to Ram and Lakshman. The only difference is that they are wearing a mask and a tail. After that background of the Vanaras in general, Valmiki now introduces the leaders among the Vanaras who will play a crucial role in the story later on. Vali, Sugriv, Tara, Nal, Neel, and Hanuman. Hanuman, born in Kishkinda in present-day Karnataka, and in popularity unmatched throughout India. The Hanuman Chalisa in Hindi, the Maruti Stotra in Marathi, and similar prayers in all languages. He is on everyone's lips in times that call for brave action or even otherwise. Now, what made this Vana reach such exalted stature? We will have to wait many seasons to find that answer. With that short diversion out of Ayodhya to understand the background of the Rakshasas and the Vanaras, we will now head back into the city in the next episode. Life in the city is as good as it gets. But there is danger lurking not too far. Terrorist cells are beginning to pop up way too close to ignore. Iti, her, asa. That is how it happened.
So Uday, once again on the style of the videos, the phrases that I have given in the middle are just like under, like I said, notes, right? So if I've read a book, I've underlined or highlighted some things, and those you can quickly see instead of reading the whole thing.
Right. I was especially fascinated by this particular part where there is this white line where you there's one part. This highlighting. This is a wonderful tool to not be too technical about each word, but also at the same time present enough information so people can associate with that information which is being presented in Sanskrit itself.
Yeah, I saw this in the book that I had read, Sri Chitare's book, the original one that I had read. There were a lot of phrases. So I liked that concept and put that in the videos as well.
Wonderfully done. So you want to talk about this particular thing?
Yes, by the way, also to our viewers today, if there are any questions, feel free to post them. We can make this interactive as we
Yes,
go along. Of
yes.
course, there is Q&A at the end.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
guys,
know.
if you have any questions, Yashji wants to take, has agreed to take questions also, and we want to keep it interactive as we do with other sessions also. So if you have any questions, instead of posting them in the chat box, you can post them in the ask a question option below. And if others find the question relevant to themselves, they can upvote or downvote the question so that the most popular, the most asked questions can float to the top, and we'll be taking them. And if you want to, you can, some of you, if you want to have a live question, interact with us live and ask ESG a live question, you're also welcome. We'll have this at the end of the session as well. But for this particular topic, for this particular specific video that we have seen, if you have specific questions, we can have a conversation right now.
And just like Vanaras, there are a lot of misconceptions about Rakshasas also. Some people think that they are the people of South India or Sri Lanka, or they were a different race. There again, very clearly, the first Rakshas that we come across, if this was a play that we had to stage, the first Rakshas character that would come in is Tataka, or Tadaka, as she is called in Hindi, Tataka in Sanskrit. And she is a woman. She is 2 days walking distance away from Ayodhya, which means she is in North India. And she was not born a Rakshasi. She became a Rakshasi because of her behavior. So in the very first instance, we understand that this has nothing to do with North India or South India or Sri Lanka. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with behavior. Yes, it has to do with behavior. She became a Rakshasi. Valmiki says Rakshasatvam. She became full of Rakshasness. Rakshas behavior, bad behavior. So just like Vanaras, there are a lot of misconceptions about Rakshasas as well. And all of these are described in the first book, the Balakand. So right now, season 1 is Balakand, and Valmiki appropriately sets the context before he goes into Ayodhya Kand, where the question of what Ram did and why he did, that comes up.
Very, very well put. And Vishnuji says, I have always been told that forest dwellers like Hanuman were monkeys, but you have shown me otherwise, much to my amazement. And with references, so there's enough.
And there is much more, because this is the Balakand. When we come to Kishkinda Kand, there are clear references. Sugriv and Hanuman are looking at Ram and Lakshman coming up from Pampa Sarovar. They are on Rishamukh mountain. Sugriv tells him, go and change your dress and go and meet them. He tells Hanuman, because of course he doesn't want to spook them if he shows up in front of them like this. So he says, change your dress and go and speak to them. And since your group here is also interested in Sanskrit language, perhaps we can in a few months have a special thing only on the words used in the Valmiki Ramayana for Vanaras, and why they are used, and why Valmiki uses them, and what is the meaning of each of these words. We can look at this.
Yes, we can do an in-depth analysis of each word and then go deeper into the interpretations of them. So Nimiji asks, what made Tataka change into Rakshasi? Any reason?
Well, the reason was bad behavior. She started tormenting people and so on. That is how it is described. Now, why one makes a bad turn? Actually, it shows in a way that it is up to us what turn we make. In fact, that's a lesson that I also drew from the different descriptions in the Balakand itself. See, Vishwamitra started off as a king. He became a Brahmarshi. Tataka went the other way. So she became a Rakshasi. So here itself he is telling us that we can be who we wish to be, who we want to be. It is up to us.
And the path of yoga also, it is the possibility of being human. Even if devas or the celestial beings as we call them, they want to work on themselves. They want to attain to some siddhi. They take birth in the human form, because that is the possibility of the human form, that you can be who you wish to be. You can work on yourself and go to higher or lower states of being. But
so perhaps we can move on now to the next question. Parts of the Ramayana, people think, hey, how is this possible? If this is history, how is this possible? This doesn't make sense to me. So let's look at one of such stories.
The Ganga story.
The story of Ganga. Yes, descent of Ganga.
I quickly before even going there, I just started the video and it started with a blue color theme. Is that also a conscious decision? Is Ganga happening? So I want to keep it as a blue color theme. The whole video is blue.
Little bit, yes, yes.
Amazing. Yeah. Let me play the video.
This is Valmiki Ramayan, Season 1, Episode 13, Ganga. As they headed north from Siddhashram to Mithila, Vishwamitra told his fellow travelers, Ram, Lakshman and the Rishis, the history of the lands they passed through. When they came upon the banks of Ganga once again, Vishwamitra started narrating the story of Vriddhim Janma Cha Gangaya, Ganga's creation or birth and her development. Now we are traveling back many years even before Ram's time. Therefore, Valmiki may not have been the first to document these events. And Ganga's story is found in some other texts as well. But as a chronicler of the history of Ram's time and the period before that, Valmiki has included this story in the Ramayana. We saw in episode 6 that Itihas is Purvavrittam Kathayuktam, that which has happened in the past, told its story format. So as we read the story of Ganga, let us also sift through the narration to understand which is the Purvavrittam part, fact, and which is the Kathayuktam part, embellishment. In ancient times, there was a great king of Ayodhya called Sagar. In his time, there was a severe water crisis. Thousands of people died. The only possible solution was to bring water down from the icy tops of Himalayas into the dry plains below, to bring down the Ganga. Told in story format, Sagar's 60,000 sons had been cursed and burned to ashes and needed Ganga's water for their redemption. Sagar, his grandson Anshuman, and great-grandson Dilip all tried hard but were unsuccessful. The land had been reeling from the water crisis for 4 generations. Katham Gangavataranam Chinta Paro Bhavat. Now it was up to Dilip's son Bhagirath. When he became the king, Bhagirath entrusted the kingdom to his ministers and devoted himself to the task of bringing down the waters of Ganga. The challenge was not only to get the water down from great heights, but to do it safely, without causing any environmental disturbance. Gangayah patanam prithvi na sahishyati. The earth will not be able to bear the descent of Ganga's water. Ganga starts her journey at Gangotri, which is at a height of 3,400 meters or more than 11,000 feet. She reaches the plains at Haridwar, which is at only about 300 meters or 1,000 feet. The straight line distance between Haridwar and Gangotri is 138 kilometers or 86 miles. Over such a short distance, imagine water is falling down a height of 3 kilometers or 10,000 feet. Bhagirath worked extremely hard for many years, or in other words, did tapasya, and was finally able to get the water down safely. Bhagirath brought down the water in smaller streams so that the flow could be better controlled and then connected them. In story format, it is told that the force of Ganga's flow was throttled by Shiva, into whose matted hair the river fell. a scene beautifully depicted by Raja Ravi Verma in his famous painting on Ganga. But making the connections was also a huge challenge, for Ganga was lost in the maze of Shiva's hair and could not find a way out for many years. Eventually, Bhagirath was successful, digging flow paths, making bunds and embankments. Or, in more poetic words, Bhagirath on his chariot led the way, and Ganga followed. Yato Bhagiratho Raja, Tato Ganga Yashaswini. Wherever King Bhagirath went, Ganga followed. But there was a major problem just as the project seemed completed. Ganga's waters disappeared, perhaps split into streams and percolated into the ground. Mahatma Janhu suggested a realignment of the flow path, and finally the river came down to the plains in the desired way. In story format, the river appeared through Janhu's ears. Bhagirath charted her flow all the way to the sea. And so was completed one of the greatest civil engineering works of all time. And it was done in an environmentally sustainable way. The new river brought health and prosperity to the people. Ganga gave life. And so she is Ganga Ma, the mother. She is Bhagirathi, born through the efforts of Bhagirath. She is also called Jahnavi in memory of Janhu's contribution. By the way, since a new river was born, she must have a birthday, which we celebrate on the Dashami of Jeshtha. Valmiki says that Ganga's waters started teeming with Matsya Kachchapasangaihi Shimshumara Ganaihi, shoals of fish, turtles and dolphins. The famous Ganga River dolphin that we can see even today. And Ganga's flow was Kwachid Drutataram Yati, Kutilam Kwachidayatam, Vindatam Kwachidudbhutam, Kwachidyati Shanai Shanaihi. At times rapid, at times slow, at times curving, at times wide, at times suddenly falling down, only to rise up again. Muhururdva patham gatva papata vasudham punah. Again and again it would rise up, only to come crashing down to the ground. Sounds like a promo for whitewater rafting at Rishikesh. What a fantastic achievement by Bhagirath. To this day, a great effort is also called a Bhagirath Prayas or Gangavatarana. What an inspiring story. There is much more to it, but we need to wrap up now. As Vishwamitra said to Ram on one of the nights of their travel, Kator dharatrah ka kutstha, katha kathayato mama. I have been telling stories, and it's past midnight now. O Ram, let us all catch some sleep, so that we do not face difficulties in the journey. Always the wise old men telling the ever-enthusiastic youngsters to go to bed. Iti ha asa. That is how it happened.
So beautifully presented.
Thank you.
I'm at a loss for words. So please tell us about this studio.
Here also, I mean, it's this same theme that I touched upon earlier. As I read it, what I found interesting, I've highlighted it and presented the actual verses so that people can make sense of it.
Yes.
And interestingly, some of the things are so contemporary, or we can relate to it so well. The last comment that I made, right? Elders telling youngsters to go to bed. I do that with my children, and that's been happening for thousands of years. All right, we have to go on the journey. So after such an emotional and intense storytelling, ending up on a lighter end, is also interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the structure of the Ramayana. There are 7 books, right? So all of this was in the Balakand, and with the context having been set, now we come to the real question: what is it that Ram did, and why did he do it? Now, today we will not have time for an in-depth analysis of that. But I can see already there are some questions about, whether Valmiki told Sita about this, and what is Sita's character, etc. So let's just, in the last 2 videos that we have, play one that tells us a little bit more about Ram's character, and one that tells us about Sita.
Okay.
And Ram's character is brought out in the beginning of the Ayodhya Kand, where now we all broadly know the story. In Balakand, after Vishwamitra, Ram and Lakshman went with Vishwamitra, they went to Mithila. There's the incident of Shiva Dhanush. By the way, there are so many things in the Valmiki Ramayana that are not, popular narrative is not the same as Valmiki Ramayana. So Ram did not go in a stadium and, there was some big swayamvar going on and everybody had failed and then he walks in. That is not how it happened. So he did break the Shiva Dhanush and they got married, they came back. And now Ayodhya Kand starts, where Dashrath is thinking about who should succeed him. And therefore we get to learn a little bit about Ram.
So you want to go to the next video?
Yeah, shall we do that?
Yes. Yeah. But just an observation, the focus on having authentic Sanskrit verses and then presenting them as easily as possible, that having the text right there and having the narration meaning of it below. This is a format that I've never done, because I do education, like teaching videos. I go into the word right there. I just look at the word and kind of explain the word, split the word, tell the roots of the word. But for a storytelling format, in that perspective, telling a story while keeping the authenticity of it, the Sanskrit part of it alive, I think this is the most wonderful way that I have seen so far presented in any video.
Thank you. And by chance we actually have it. So as we were deciding on the first few videos and we made them, one of our thinking was, oh, it has to be a short video. People don't have patience these days for long videos. So one of the ideas that came, why should we have Sanskrit shlokas? People won't understand it anyway. Let's take them out. Luckily we didn't.
I'm glad you put it in. Yes, it's adds so much more value. Even if there might be one of people who are interested, maybe most of the people want to skip through it, but if somebody is inclined to reading it, they can pause the video, they read the Sanskrit.
And we've kept it slow, and Valmiki's words are not that difficult. So if we are familiar with any Indian language, then you can make out what is the rough meaning of what is being said.
All right, let's get to the next video.
Yes. No, not this one. Uday, we'll skip this one. We'll go to Ram's video of season 2, episode 1, because
This is Valmiki Ramayana, Season 2, Episode 1, Succession Plan. Previously in the Balakand, Valmiki told us about Ayodhya, the greatest and the grandest city in the world, Dashrath's longing for an heir, and his yajna. We heard about Ram's birth, how Vishwamitra later mentored him during their travels, and finally Ram's exploits with the Shivadhanush and his marriage to Sita. Many moons passed. Age was beginning to catch up with Dashrath. He felt that the time had come to hand over the responsibility of the empire. For years, I have been devoted to the welfare of the people. I am now weary and am finding it difficult to carry on this heavy burden of duty. Jirnasyasya sharirasya vishrantim abhirochaye. I feel his body has become old and needs some rest. And of course, there was no one better placed to succeed him than Ram. Why Ram? Ram had already demonstrated through his conduct as a prince that he was the most qualified candidate for this role in every respect. Valmiki says, "In archery, there is no one who can match him. He is an expert in leading and commanding the troops. Yada vrajati sangramam na vijitya nivartate." Whenever he goes into battle, he never returns without defeating the enemy. He is a great warrior in every way. In fact, the greatest of them all. And though he is overwhelmingly mighty, he is never proud of his strength. On taxation and administration, ayakarmanyupayatnyas sandrashta vyayakarmavit. He knows the right means of generating revenue for the state and the right way of expending the resources. On people skills, in demeanor and speech, he is always pleasant, mrudupurvam. He is ever grateful to those who have done a single good deed, but does not carry the grudge of even 100 offenses. He is highly adept at attracting and retaining the right individuals and in controlling or removing those who create problems. He is most persuasive in debates and discussions, taking people along and not demanding subservience. And with regards to what we call extracurricular activities, Vaiharikanam Shilpanam Vidnyata. He is an expert in the instruments used for entertainment and sport, and is proficient in music too. Ram is always righteous, true to his word, and free from envy. He possesses a sound character with forbearance, gentleness, and a sense of gratitude. He has attained control over his senses. In the first 2 sargas of the Ayodhya Kand, Valmiki has described in fascinating detail why Ram was the right choice to succeed Dashrath. It is also amazing that such an ancient poet analyzed his character in so many ways. He talks about Ram's physical presence, how he exuded power and grace at the same time. He also mentions some very interesting behavioral traits. For instance, Ram would go up to people and initiate a conversation and not rely on his stature and wait for them to come up to him. And from these lengthy descriptions, if we are to distill the essence of Ram, the Prince of Ayodhya, it is this. Everything that he did was driven by Praja Palana, welfare of the people, the well-being of all. For most people, self-interest comes first, then the interest of near and dear ones, and finally, if at all, the interest and well-being of society. We usually worry about rules and the right thing to do only to the extent we are forced to do so. For Ram, the priorities were inverted. His foremost commitment was to the people. His personal interest was simply absent from any of his decision-making. And he knew that society's long-term interest could only be secured through dharma, righteousness, and satya, truth. Now coming back to Dashrath's succession planning, while it was clear that Ram was the perfect candidate, it was not up to him to simply appoint Ram and thrust his decision on everyone. Dashrath had to consult all stakeholders who were going to be affected by the decision. So he convened a meeting of a parishad or council that comprised other kings as well as citizen representatives of other janpads. To the parishad, he proposed Ram's name and said, Yadidam menu rupartham maya sadhu sumantritam bhavanto menu manyantam katham va karavanyaham. If you are in favor of my proposal, kindly give me your consent. And if not, please advise what other course of action I should take. Although I favor this proposal, please do consider if some other option would bring greater good. Deliberations by the unbiased result in a better outcome. The members of the Parishad were madhyastha, unbiased, without any conflict of interest. Interestingly, the king of Kekaya, Kaikeyi's father and Bharat's grandfather, and King Janak of Mithila, Ram's father-in-law, had not been invited. This gathering was not meant to merely rubber stamp a decision already taken, but to arrive at the right choice for succession. The Parishad members had internal deliberations and then came back and announced their decision to Dashrath. Indeed, they wholeheartedly endorsed Ram's name. But upon hearing their decision, Dashrath feigned ignorance, ajananniva, and asked them why they were so keen to see Ram ascend the throne. Was he, Dashrath, not doing a good enough job? Dashrath wanted to be sure that they had arrived at this decision for the right reasons. The representatives said that the people of all lands wished to see Ram being crowned as Yuvraj. They gave many reasons for their decision, but it is telling what they said first. Rama Satpurusho Loke Satyas Satyaparayana. In this world, Ram is the very embodiment of Satya. This was the Ram the people had chosen. Iti her asa. That is how it happened.
Yeah, I can binge on this content forever. But the Sanskrit references are, I cannot stress enough. I mean, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so wonderfully done.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's just, actually, I was reading one of the comments that in the chat here. Mm-hmm. One person has commented that Valmiki had knowledge about a lot of different fields and he was a documenter. I mean, I want to just put aside some interesting things here. So while there is the narration of Ram's Charitra, Valmiki has told us a lot about, of course, history, geography, even botany. He lists plants that were found in different areas. And here's an interesting, anecdote I would like to read out for you from the Ramayana itself. So the scene is this, that the Vanaras are about to attack, and Ravan asks his spies to go and find out how big is the army, the enemy army. The spies go, and when they come back, this is how they report. So it's interesting. They say, Shatam Shata Sahasranam Koti Mahur Manishinaha. So 100 of 100,000, 100 of 1 lakh is 1 koti. Okay. Shatam Koti Sahasranam Shankuh iti abhidhiyate. So 1 lakh of koti is 1 Shanku. Now you're wondering why, these spies have been told to find out how big is the army. Why they are telling the numbering system. And they keep going. Shatam Shanku Sahasranam Mahashanku iti smritaha. So 1 lakh of Shanku is Mahashanku. Mahashanku, 1 lakh of Mahashanku is Vrinda, and then Mahavrinda, Padma, Mahapadma, Kharva. The shloks go on. And I was reading this, I totaled up, it goes up to 10 raised to the power 62. So, Samudra, Og, Maha-Og. And then they say the Vanaras are all of that, plus there are these leaders among the Vanaras and so on. Now, why I want to bring this out is, yes, the Vanara, they could have said very simply, the Vanara army is very big. But Valmiki has used this opportunity to give us the numbering system of that time. Right? The million, billion, trillion. Terminology of that time. So he uses this very interesting thing to give us knowledge at different points. Of course, there is the famous Katchit Sarga. So when Bharat goes to Chitrakoot to call back Ram could have just asked him, how are you? How are things in Ayodhya? 2 questions, right? But he asks a lot more questions. And there is the whole Sarga, the 100th Sarga of Ayodhya Kand, where every the questions begin with Katchit, and he says, is it true that? And then he says, is it true that? He says something which are the ideal principles of governance. So through this conversation, Valmiki is telling us about the ideal principles of governance. Whether Ram actually asked Bharat all of these questions is not important. But within the framework of the story, Valmiki gives us a lot of different types of knowledge.
Right. As you said, right? Like mathematics, botany, administration, warfare, like all. And it's interesting, they call the Adi Kavya. And this is the first work of poetic literature of Sanskrit. And this is, as you again pointed out, this is with such simple words. It's not like Kalidasa's poetry, or it's not some complicated wordplay. It's all in such simple terminology of Sanskrit. If only somebody makes that attempt to learn the basic words of Sanskrit and put an effort, all this knowledge is there to be grasped and to benefit from. So let's look at, we are almost at we passed 1 hour. So let's look at some questions, Yashji. And if any of you want to...
I don't know how we do, but there are a lot of questions on Sita. And again, I don't want to answer them without showing what Valmiki has said, at least a little bit. Because once again, we're discussing without any...
do you have the time to go? Let's do
yes, we can do that. We can do the one last video on Sita, season 2, episode 9.
Wonderful. Let's do that. And guys, if you have any questions, you can post them in the Ask a Question section below. And if you have a burning question and you want to interact with ESG and me live, you can also come on screen. But before that, we'll watch the last video for this session, which is on Sita.
This is Valmiki Ramayan, Season 2, Episode 9, Sita. The terrible news of Ram's Vanvas had not yet reached Sita. For her, this was still a most joyful occasion, the day of Ram's coronation. She was eagerly waiting for him to come back after meeting Dashrath and Kaikeyi. When Ram got back, excited well-wishers still thronged his palace. He went past them with his head bent down a little. Kinchidavang mukha. One look, and Sita realized something was amiss. She started trembling upon seeing Ram distressed and anxious. Remember, Valmiki had said at the end of Balakand that Ram and Sita were so close that they could read each other's minds even when things were left unsaid. And upon seeing Sita, Ram too could not hold back his sorrow anymore. Sorrow and anxiety, not for what had happened to him, of course, but at what this meant for Sita. Sita saw that his face had turned pale and he was sweating. Vivarnavadanam prasvinnam. She asked, "What happened? Everything is ready for your coronation. Why are you like this?" And then Ram told her about Kaikeyi's demands to make Bharat the Yuvraj and to banish him, Ram, into the forest. He further told her that she ought to take care of Dashrath and Kausalya, and also Sumitra and Kaikeyi. He clarified that he felt no bitterness towards Kaikeyi and still thought of her as his mother. He also counseled Sita on how to deal practically with the fact that his younger brother, Bharat, would now be the king.
I wonder how Sita felt about all this.
You don't need to wonder, because here is a woman who does not hold back her words. Sita looked at Ram in an affectionately cross way. Pranayadeva Sankruddha, and said, "What are these words that you are throwing around? I feel like laughing. They are not worthy of being spoken by you, and not worth listening to either." Quite a response. Consider this. When Dashrath had heard the pronouncement, he had gone into shock. Kausalya had wailed in sorrow, and Lakshman had raged. Only Ram had taken it with perfect equanimity. Now, just like him, Sita too was entirely unmoved by the news itself. For Sita was Dharmadnya and Dharmacharini. She knew Dharma and always followed it. So she said nothing about whether Ram should abide by the king's promise or not. She said not a word against her mother-in-law, Kaikeyi, who had just destroyed her life. She did not beat her chest and cry, "Why me?" Her approach was the same as Ram's. Uphold Dharma and hold no bitterness in your heart. But she had one strong objection to what Ram had said. And this was the reason for calling his words laughable. She reminded him that a husband and wife are meant to share everything. It is the husband alone that is always there for a woman, not her father, mother, or son. And a wife alone shares the destiny of her husband. O Ram, the best among men, I am also therefore required to live in the forest. Sita argued that what Kaikeyi asked of Ram automatically applied to her as well. Effectively, Sita was objecting to Ram considering her as being separate from him. And Anushishta asmi matra cha pitra cha vividhashrayam nasmi samprativaktavya vartitavyam yathamaya. I have been taught well enough by my mother and my father about my duties in different life situations, about what I ought and ought not to do. Now there is no need to lecture me about any of this. Sita loved Ram and was totally devoted to him. Sita told him that she was least interested in the comforts of royal life and knew the difficulties of forest life. Further, they were to live as ascetics, and so she would be Niyata Brahmacharini. She would not be a burden on him during the Vanvas and would try and help in whatever manner she could. All she wanted was to be with him. But Ram urged her to drop the idea. Sita's eyes were beginning to tear up as Ram said, "Hita buddhya khalu vacho mayaitada bidhiyate." I am saying this for your own good. The forest is full of terrible hardships. Food and water are hard to find. There are deadly snakes, dangerous insects, and wild beasts. It is a thorny path. Valmiki has devoted an entire sarga to explain these difficulties of forest life. But Sita countered, "Whatever the difficulties may be, I will gladly accept them, only to be with you. Yas tvaya sah saswargo nirayo yas tvaya vina." For me, heaven is where we are together, and hell being without you. The tears were flowing in a torrent now, arguing urging and entreating, she finally hugged Ram tightly and cried inconsolably. Patim Prishamalingya Chukrosha Saswaram. Ram was finally convinced. He said, I did not know how you felt about it and was therefore reluctant to impose the hardship of Vanvas on you. Oh, my beloved Sita, your decision is correct. Valmiki's narration of this electrifying conversation makes this much crystal clear. Ram and Sita were totally committed to upholding dharma and totally committed to each other. For Sita and Ram, Siya Ram, their relationship was not merely a hyphenation of their names, but a hyphenation of their destiny. Iti, her, asa. That is how it happened.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was something. Please go ahead. So Soumya also says she countered him very strongly. In fact, she even said, my father got me married to a woman in a man's disguise. Why are you speaking to me of dangers in the forest when you're with me? So please go ahead.
Yes, Sita clearly spoke her mind, like she did now. And even later on, she did not hold back her words.
Yeah.
And her objection.
Sorry, who wrote the words for this? I'm sorry. Maybe even if it's not you, the hyphenation is not just the Siya Ram. It's not just a hyphenation of their names, but the hyphenation of their destiny. There's some really powerful words.
Yes, I've written the script for this.
Amazing. So please go ahead.
And we find later also during the incident when Ravan abducts Sita, or when they are first in Vanvas, that she was not. Valmiki makes no mention of her holding arms, of fighting herself physically. She was a strong-willed woman, and for in front of Ravan also, he could never bend her will. For all his strength, he could never bend her will.
Yeah.
And therefore, one of the questions is also that when Valmiki wrote this, did he ask Sita about any of this when he wrote the Ramayana? Now, although there is no direct mention, you can imagine that Sita was in Valmiki's ashram after, right at the end. And a lot of the details, practically, he would have got from her only. And here is a woman who does not hold back her words. So, of course, the narration of the events would be in line with with how she had seen it.
Yeah. So, if you guys have any questions, do you want to take questions now, Yashji?
Yeah. Yes, we can take.
Before playing this video, I have not seen both the last two videos. I downloaded them at the last minute, but I'm really glad I did not watch them before. So it's something else. So yeah, please, if you let's look at the questions. The first one is Lanka in Ramayana the same as Sri Lanka today? Pradeep.
No, there are different points of views on that. I'm aware of that, but really, see, as far as the Valmiki Ramayana goes, the description is of a land to the south of the Indian mainland, and separated by a shallow sea, over which the Vanaras built a setu. And a setu is a bund, not a bridge. So there were no floating bricks, but they filled. It is very clearly described that they filled up the shallow sea with tree trunks, rocks, stones, mud, etc., and were able to cross over. So it was a land separated by a shallow sea, over which the setu was built. So this much is what is described in the Valmiki Ramayana.
It's clear. The next question is, Valmiki also named the Kavya to be Sitaya's Charitam Mahata. So does this mean that he was able to have the divine vision also into Sita's heart? I think you,
Yes.
Soumya ji asked this question.
So practically, like I just said, Sita was in his ashram, and I'm sure they would have had conversations about all of these events, and he would understand from her what had happened. Interestingly, in the Ramayana, the first 16 years of Ram's life, there are only 12 shlokas about this. Okay. So the children are born, Dashrath's after the Yajna, children are born, and then suddenly they are grown up. Now, why no more detail on this? He will Valmiki will dedicate 2 sargas to list astras and shastras, 1 sarga to talk about the difficulties of forest life, sometime others, to list trees. About the main character, he has, for the first 16 years of his life, he has not given any details. Now, why is that? One, it could be that his objective of writing this itihas, there was nothing in those incidents that he would have found relevant to put. The other, perhaps, could also be that if most of the facts he had got from Sita, then she would know the first 16 years of his life before marriage, and therefore he didn't have the details, perhaps.
Soumya ji again asks, I read in Forest of Enchantments that Valmiki first gave the copy of his work to Sita and asked Sita to write her own version if she is not satisfied with his Ramayana. I do not recollect any such depiction in Balakanda. Please clarify if such a thing happened in the Itihasa.
Even I don't recollect this right now.
I haven't read Forest of Enchantments. Kanchanji asks this question. I'm from Mithila in Bihar, and we have a very strong version of Sita ji. Yashji, are you here?
Yes.
Okay. So Kanchanji says she's from Mithila in Bihar, and very strong version of Sita ji being told. What is the Valmiki Ramayan's interpretation? I'm gradually reading Ramayana from IIT Kanpur site, but your views will be great. Thank you.
Sure. Definitely, Sita's character is a very strong character. Not depicted as a warrior, but a very strong-willed character.
Yeah. Yes. Vatsalaji asks, on the topic of Balakandam, my long-time question has been, who exactly are Vidyadharas? They are mentioned in multiple places. The rest of the hierarchy are clearly defined as celestial beings, where Kinnaras are closest to humans, and Indra being closer to Godhead. Who are Vidyadharas?
Yeah. Well, on this particular question and about some others also, I would just say, see, Valmiki assumes certain things that his readers knows, and he doesn't describe them. Vidyadhara is one of those. And also a broader question, for example, Yajna, right? What is a Yajna? What did they do exactly? Now, in the Ramayana, in the Balakand itself, there are again and again, when you go to an ashram, there is a Yajna. You go to a town, there is a Yajna going on. What did they do exactly? Now, he assumes that the reader knows it, and therefore does not describe the details of many of these things. So I don't want to comment on it, because my understanding and research is limited to the Valmiki Ramayana. And perhaps somebody who has done research of other texts related to this will be better suited to answer this.
Maybe. Yeah. Vidyadharas, I am also not equipped to answer exactly who they are. But interpolating from or extrapolating from what you have talked about Rakshasas and Vanaras, they are also a group of people who are skilled or Gandharvas. So by the name themselves, the name is very simple. Like if we can do Vanamrati iti Vanaraha. Yes. Vidyadhara is somebody who is very learned, who has that Vidya. Again, the Vidya, the word itself, if we look at it, it's not just any kind of learning, but the word Vidya itself has its own etymology. Maybe if we go there, we get a deeper insight. But exactly who they are they a different group of people? Are they humans with extraordinary abilities? That I myself am not very sure of. The next question, is there a way where this platform can teach elementary conversations between characters so aspiring students can experience how conversations are shared in Sanskrit? Nicole asked this question. Nicole Jones ji, namaskaram. Did you get the question?
Not
ESG is
perhaps
elementary conversations between characters.
The interesting thing is that a lot of these conversations, if you look at the actual words, you can use the phrases today, and we use them. They are very simple. Now the question is how aspiring students can learn this.
How conversations happen. Actually, so let me also pitch in a little bit here. So how conversations happen, as you saw, how conversations happen right now, how students are introduced to conversations is quite different from how it used to happen back then. But to introduce vocabulary, to introduce poetic meter, to introduce small, to expand upon the vocabulary, absolutely yes. There these conversations between Ram and Sita, as SJ has presented in his video, they can be demonstrated as the narrator in the video has presented, right? Like you add that emotion to what is being conveyed in that sentence. Is it an angry rebuttal? Is it a request? So if you present those words, yes, definitely these can be presented as conversations. I had this at the back of my mind. But compared to Valmiki Ramayanam, there are other short stories, there are natakas, there are Panchatantra stories, which present these conversations in a much better, in a tone, which renders itself to conversations better. But even Valmiki Ramayanam, I think, renders itself well to demonstration of conversations. We'll have to see how that can be presented. That can be a project for me. Maybe it's a question to point it. I mean, it's an idea for me to take up. Do you have any views on this?
No, that's all. My remark upon reading is that the conversational language is quite suitable to start using in our day-to-day language, in our day-to-day conversations also. Yeah. Now, how to teach, I don't know.
Sure. संस्कृते सम्भाषणं कुर्वः वा इदानीं न वा पुनः कदापि अस्तु. Next question, do you want, there is one more. I have been in, Pradeep ji asked this question. I have been interested in references to Ramayana and other cultures, like the Monkey King or Sun Wukong in Chinese literature. Some sources say both are not related. Some say they are one, and some say they are one and the same, proving the existence of Hanuman, as other ancient cultures also had the same legends. Do you have anything to say about this, Yashji? I don't have much to offer.
No, largely, as far as the Valmiki Ramayana goes, which is our text of reference text for finding out what really happened, the Vanaras and Hanumans are Hanuman was not a monkey, and so how it relates to some other cultures, I can't say.
Yeah, not me neither. Expert. Are people ready to accept this proper narrative of Vanaras, etc.? Asks Nimiji.
We have to just present what Valmiki has said and leave it.
People are ready to accept, it's up to them. But as we all know, there are multiple variations, different cultures present. I mean, different regional stories. People have been presenting Ramayanam forever, for ages. So all this, different interpretations have gone in. Depending on storytellers, how they approached it. Different Janapadas, different groups have their own interpretations. But I
can say that this whenever I've spoken to students in schools and colleges, this is striking a chord with them, and their confidence that at least what we are sharing here are the authentic words in the Valmiki Ramayana. This is new knowledge for them. So as they come to their conclusions of what happened, whether the Vanaras were monkeys or not, how was the bridge being built, who are the Rakshasas, etc. Yes, all of these questions, which we raised in episode 1 itself, as you consider all these questions, here are additional facts that you can use. And when people trust the authenticity of what is being said, they will accept the facts and process it for themselves.
Correct. I think that's a much better answer. That what we present is the text, and as you rightly said in the very first video itself, this is what Valmiki has to say. Now, how you want to don't take somebody else's interpretation. This instead of reading somebody else's work or conclusion about this, make the conclusion for yourself. Is a better way of going about it, I guess. Um, Yashodeep ji was wondering if more such series based on Puranic Kathas is in the pipeline. Kanchan ji asked this question again.
Right now, focus is entirely on the Valmiki Ramayana. It's taken 3 years to get to. We are working on season 4 right now. It will take a few more years to complete it. So that's the focus.
Can you talk about this part before we wrap up, about what has taken, what effort has gone into, and how what time has gone into this, what we envision for the future?
So far, in the last 3 years, I'm working on this full time. Each season is about the length of a full length feature film. So, some of our viewers are saying, "Oh, this is, we are waiting. We want to see the next season quickly." But it will take a few months, 6, 8, 9 months to do the entire research and make this product. So 8 seasons, so many months. You can do the calculation.
Right.
It's that's what it will take to do the entire.
And how is this being funded? So you're putting all the
Yes,
funding and all of it. So are you monetizing through ads, or is it something?
No. In fact, I have switched off ads on YouTube because I don't want ads to interrupt the users'
the storytelling experience. So it's currently just you.
It is entirely non-profit. It is a non-profit effort.
Okay.
Objective is to present the Ramayana to people.
Okay. One more question. Okay, I'm answering this. Soumya ji asks again, are there any inferences about discussions between Urmila and Sita after their marriage to the princess in Valmiki Ramayana?
I was also looking for it, but actually there is very little reference to Urmila. It's surprising, but perhaps again Valmiki, if he is very clinical in that sense. First 16 years of Ram's life, just 12 short shlokas. He if it's not relevant to his description of what is the ideal behavior, or he will drop it. So he has not mentioned Urmila then, or even later. In the Vanvas, Ram and Sita have conversations once they have settled down, etc. Sita also never mentions Urmila. Yes.
Interesting. So thank you so much for joining us today, Yashji. Any of you have more questions, or you want to ask any other question live? Oh, Sharad wants to join on screen. I'm sending you an invite, Sharad. Sharad is one of the students from one of our previous batches. He's the crowd favorite student. He's very active. He's always follows all the content of us, and he's always here. Namaskaram, Sharad.
Namaste, Udayji. Namaste. So yeah, it's night right now. But like I'm sleeping with Ramayana content, so my sleep will be really good. I'll have Ramayana. I'll have the bravery and courage of Ramayana, the gunas of Ramayana in my dream.
Have you read Valmiki Ramayana before, Sharad?
No, I have actually been watching your videos. On
Sundarakanda.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to come here and say thank you to all you're doing. Because now I have like a episode before this whole thing, I actually watched the whole breeze of like the whole the Balakanda of Ramayana. I watched the whole thing, and it was really fun. After I was like, I need to watch this before I join this stream, and it was like so fun. So
Good to hear that.
Yes, and also I think Soumya ji had a problem with she wanted episodes or like shows for like Ramayana. So now Dhruv has some content to see Ramayana in this like Sanskrit and English mixed together.
Exactly. After our course on Vakshuddhi, maybe this adds more, gives additional material to follow up on and go and in easing into the Sanskrit literature. If not reading the entire shlokas in Sanskrit, listening to these videos, finding those words and following the narration and then knowing the meaning. This is easing into reading the Valmiki Ramayana for yourself in Sanskrit.
Yeah. I'll also show it to my family, like my sister and stuff.
Thank you, Sharad.
Yes, and I'll share it with my friends. Like I have like some Hindu community or like relatives in New York, so like I'll share it with them, of course. It will just be a really good thing that like they're learning the Ramayana not from like movies but actual text from.
Valmiki Ramayana. It's important. It as Sharad ji was saying, as Yash ji was saying, right? It has multiple other layers of knowledge presented regarding botany, warfare, politics, mathematics. So all of that is added information which might go missing if somebody is watching some other kind of
Yeah,
present.
I was like really astonished by how when Dasharath was doing the yagna, it was like Lord Yagneshwara appeared. But then after that, Yashodip ji said that like they the all the queens took a herbal paste or something. Like I think it was Purva the
Purvavrittam tatha yuktam.
yeah, so like in the past and also with the
Story.
tale, so like with the funness for the reader to actually understand really easily, and um and it's not really hard Sanskrit, so like I can understand it, like I'm breaking up the words and then like I'm understanding the things. So
Perfect,
thank you
man.
for all
Yeah,
the
Yash
things.
ji, you see, he's an inspiration for all of us.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Sharad.
If you
Thank
want
you
to
so
I'm
much.
sorry, that's my computer. It's just like I'm really interested into Sanskrit content. Like I think I told you this before, Udeji. Like in third grade, I was like, all my other friends can learn Sanskrit. Why can't I? And like now I got the chance. So
Wonderful, man.
yeah,
So yeah, see you in the next session. Thank you for joining us. Let's see if more people take inspiration from you and
yeah,
want to join the screen.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us, Sharad.
Bye.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
Have a good morning or good night in
You
your
too.
location. Yes.
Namaskar. Shubh. Anyone else wants to join us on screen? Have questions or observations? We'll wrap up the session now. It's one. It's been an hour and a half. Thank you, Kanchanji. Thank you, Nimiji. Thank you, Soumyaji, for joining in. Anybody else wants to join on screen? All right. Thank you. I think that's it. Yes, Ji, thank you so much for presenting again. Are there any steps that you want the audience to take? Anybody who's watching this content? Of course, they can go to 21 Notes, the
Yes,
YouTube channel,
do
and
watch
leave
the entire series. You know, we've shown only a part of it, so do watch the entire series. And if you like it, tell your friends and family to watch it as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Uday. Pleasure speaking to you. Yes.
Likewise. Namaskar. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Namaskar. See you in the next showcase. Namaskar.